I don't even know what this is. What even is this? I hesitate to say this, but the slump may be over. Hey guys, welcome back to another one. So like I was saying, I think, maybe, possibly, not confirmed, that the motivational reading slump may, if not be over, may be coming to an end because I have been out all day today. We had so many errands to run, we had so many things to do, and all I have been thinking about doing all day long is getting home and cracking open a book. And there are a ton of books on my TBR this month that I'm so motivated to read, and I actually really want to try to maybe not complete my TBR, like let's calm down, right? But like make good progress on my TBR because I think it's a good one if you watched my August TBR. And while I am feeling this way, I want to capitalize on this momentum because I am fighting. I'm clawing my way up the mountain of a slump, up slump mountain, climbing my way up slump mountain. So I'm hoping that we can reach the top and the challenge will be over. So the only way that we're going to do that is with a readathon. Here's our readathon spin wheel. If you have not seen this before, there's a couple of videos up on my channel where I've used this. It's basically just to motivate me into reading. It's simple prompts. It's simple little like kicks in the right direction for where I'm going to read next. However, there was a change on this month's readathon wheel. If you see the wedge that currently says trope spin, in past TBR readathon videos, that has said reread. However, I'm changing it to put our trope spin wheel on there because I don't really want to reread anything right now. This readathon is specifically to help me make progress through my TBR and the books on my shelves, not necessarily to read something that I've already completed, if that makes sense. So I took off the reread wedge. I threw our trope spin on for a little diversity, but also just because I am fighting my way out of a slump. I don't want to do something I'm not necessarily in the mood for right now. That won't help. That will hinder. So without further ado, let's do our first spin and see what direction it's going to point us in. Okay, what is it going to be? Our trope spin, which makes me so happy that I put this on because that would have meant we would have gotten a reread, which I don't want to do. Okay, so this is actually a wheel that could pop up on our TBR every single month, but it hasn't at this current point. It looks kind of funky, but there's a reason it looks this way. So this is a color-coded trope wheel. So right now you're going to see a key that I made up on your screen that shows what each color is associated with. It's a genre that is associated with that color. So every single slice on this wheel has a different trope or plot point, and whatever color wedge it's on is what category that plot or trope has to be in, if that makes sense. I probably just did a horrible job explaining that, but it'll make more sense when we spin. So let's go ahead and randomize and spin. And once we get the wheel going, you'll know what it means. Okay. Purple shapeshifters. So according to our key, purple is fantasy. So I now have to go find a fantasy book featuring shapeshifters. Okay. Whew. Let's talk about if anything on my TBR will fit this prompt. Okay, so here's my August TBR. So the only fantasies that are on this are The Exorcism of Fairies, Long Live Evil, Hunt on Dark Waters, I guess The Unmaking of June Pharaoh, kind of fantasy, Demon World Boba Shop, and that's really it. Do any of those feature shapeshifters? Okay, Exorcism of Fairies has fairies. Are fairies shapeshifters? Maybe some of them. Hunt on Dark Waters, no. Long Live Evil. Does Long Live Evil have shapeshifters? When I think of shapeshifters, I think more like werewolves, things like that. I mean, I guess some fairies can, or like wizards where you wouldn't know that they're necessarily human. They change form. Let me go and look this up. I did officially confirm that none of the books on my August TBR meet the criteria for a shapeshifter fantasy. However, I was able to find 4 books on my Kindle that interest me. So the first book I could go with has been sitting in my Kindle Unlimited library for quite a while now. That is The Witch Slayer by Opal Rain. It's Witchbound Book 1. This says a white witch discovers her rescued lizard is a dragon warrior who saves her from burning but imprisons her. Despite his hatred for witches, they develop an unexpected attraction while dark forces loom. Now, that doesn't tell you much, but if you scroll down, it says, when Amali's cat brought home a strange flying lizard during a terrible storm, she had no idea that it was a dragon, or that he would save her from burning at the stake, only to imprison her in his lair when she saw his human face. So he obviously shifts from human to dragon. The next book I could do is Feathers So Vicious by Liv Zander. I have seen this book go around booktube from like the spicy fantasy girlies who say that this book is very heavy on the spice. I know next to nothing about it other than it features raven shifters. So human to raven. So when I just straight up put shifter or shifters into my search on my Kindle, Psycho Shifters popped up, and it is about a young woman discovering she's a shifter and must navigate her new life while keeping her past secrets hidden from her roommates, who are also shifters. So this definitely fits the prompt. However, this book is by Jasmine Moss, and I did just read Blood of Hercules by her a couple of, probably 4 or 5 days ago, and it is my least favorite book, possibly that I have ever read, and it wasn't because it wasn't a good story, it's because of the god-awful writing. So I just don't know if Jasmine Moss is an author for me. However, my brain also tells me that maybe I should give her like a second chance, because maybe it's not necessarily her writing, maybe it was just that book. Like maybe Blood of Hercules was just not well written, but this would be great. And it definitely does fit the prompt, so who knows? And last but not least is The Wolf King by Lauren Palfreyman, I think is how you pronounce it. This actually got on my radar because I just saw Emmy from Emmy Reads reading this book and loving it. I think she gave this and the sequel both 5 stars, or this one 4 stars and the sequel 5 stars. I'm not sure, but this she said was one of her favorite new fantasies that she had read recently, and it's intriguing me. This is an Omegaverse wolf shifter book. So looking at my 4 options, I think just because I already have reservations about it, I'm going to eliminate Psycho Shifters. I don't really have much interest maybe right now, coming off of the heels of Blood of Hercules and how much I hated it, wanting to read another one of her books. I also think I'm gonna eliminate The Witch Slayer. It's just grabbing me less. I just don't think I'm as interested as the other 2. And here's where the decision always gets hard, because I want to read both of these books really, really badly. But I think I'm going to go with Feathers So Vicious. I am so intrigued by this book, and I just want to get sucked into a smutty shifter book.
We went head first into the fire, watch the flames rise higher, love. We were burning so damn bright, just like a shooting star turns
It's officially late at night. I just hopped out of the shower. I have my PJs on, but I figured I'd stop in and kind of give you guys my thoughts about my progress in Feathers So Vicious today, because I will say this, I locked in today. I was kind of in and out of the house all day today. My son had practice. I had to go to this couple of stores. I went to like Walmart. I went to Stop and Shop. I had to run to Home Depot with my son because he's working on a little project with his 3D printer that he needed some supplies for. So I was kind of in and out all day. But every single time I had a spare second, all I could do was think about this book and how I wanted to rush back to it to pick it up and figure out what else had happened. And that resulted in me making it to page 266, which according to Goodreads and my Kindle is like 65% of the way through this book. It is so good. I am eating it up, but we got to talk about some stuff. This book is definitely dark. And when I say dark, I'm not talking about like, oh, it's a little gothic. I'm talking about like dark, dark, dark. I've talked about this before. I do not personally have triggers, what we refer to as triggers these days. But if you do have triggers, definitely check before you read this book. Now, as someone who doesn't have any, I'm eating it up, okay? But there are a lot of situations in this book that are incredibly disturbingly dark. I'm not going to get too far into it because like do your research and also like message me on Instagram if you want me to go a little bit more in depth. My Instagram is always linked in the description down below. So if you want me to go like a little bit more detailed, I'm just not going to discuss a lot of the stuff here on YouTube that happens in this book. But I think the biggest one is that this book takes place during wartime, and it does. And I'm not talking about like, oh, there's some fighting. I'm talking about like Viking, conquest, barbaric wartime. And there's a lot of wartime, really brutal wartime stuff that happens in this book. But I think the biggest one that you might want to check, and the one that I think would probably be the most jarring to a lot of people, is there's a lot of like non-con experiences in this. There's a lot of non-con encounters that happen in this. So if you are a person that bothers, this is 150,000% not for you. Because it's not just one disturbing non-con scene. It's like a theme throughout the entire book. And this is like prisoner captive non-con. So there's a power element there as well. So if that's something that you're not into or that you struggle to read about or is a quote trigger warning, definitely be careful with this. But what this book is about is our main female character, Galantia. She is a human in her world, and their world has been at war with the world of the Raven Shifters, which they call Ravens, for decades. The war was started when the Raven King at the time stole the betrothed woman that was engaged to the human king. So the Ravens came, stole her, took her to their land, and the humans and the Raven Shifters have been at war ever since. And like I said, when I'm talking about like a war, I'm not talking about like, oh, they fight back and forth. I'm talking about brutal pillaging, burning cities, all of that really brutal warfare stuff that goes along with it. So the humans are constantly capturing and torturing members of the Raven community, and the Raven community are constantly capturing and torturing humans. And it's been a really tough war. So our main female character, Galantia, is the current daughter of the current human king. At least to this point, she is a human. However, she was always kind of a disappointment to her family. Her father was always hoping that he would get a male heir, and her mother was never able to provide that for him. So she was always just kind of like this inconvenience that he didn't really value. And her mother wasn't very loving as well. So she never really felt like she got any affection or love, or that she was ever really wanted. She felt like she was kind of just an obligation. So fast forward to the present day, and the Ravens attack the human world in Galantia's kingdom, and Galantia is taken captive and brought back to the Raven world, where the Ravens think that they can hold her for ransom back to the human world, only to find out that her family doesn't really want her that much and doesn't really value her that much, so she's essentially worthless. Well, up until this point, the only worth that she's going to have is potentially marrying the Prince of the Ravens, so that the princess of the human world marries the prince of the Raven world, and maybe that marital union will cause a little bit of a peace treaty between the two communities. Except things can never be just that straightforward and easy, because the Prince of the Raven World is literally the most horrible creature that has ever walked this earth. He is cruel, he is sadistic, he is horrible. So Galantia is obviously terrified to marry him, but he also kind of intrigues her. So here's what I'm going to say. I, throughout reading this book, have gotten very similar like thoughts and vibes and feelings as I did when I read Kiss of the Basilisk by Lindsay Straub. So both of these books are very much erotica, okay? They are not spicy fantasy. These are erotica to me. Now, I think Feather So Vicious is much darker and brutal and grim than Kiss of the Basilisk was. And one of the things in the Basilisk book was that consent was a really like popular theme. Like they were always checking to make sure that the character was okay with what was going on. That is something that's very much not happening in Feather So Vicious. So that is something very different. But when I say that I keep comparing my feelings between these two books, I mean in the fact that they are very erotica forward. But what I have found in a lot of the erotica I've read is that you kind of sacrifice world building, character building, and plot point when you're focusing mainly on just erotica, right? Like the spiciness and the spicy scenes become the driving force of most erotica, and you kind of lose everything else on the back burner. In both of these books, I don't feel like that's happening. There is excellent character work. The world, so cool. There's a map in the front of the book that really intrigues me, and the world, I can picture it in my brain. And you want to know, okay, so the human world in Feather So Vicious is reminding me very much of like a combination between Winterfell in Game of Thrones and like a little bit of Westeros. Like the climate and the temperature of Winterfell, but the vibes and like the architecture of Westeros, if you're a Game of Thrones fan. And then you throw in like a little bit of like past timeline in Hocus Pocus. Like, remember the scene in the original Hocus Pocus where, I forget what his name is, Binks? Is it Binks? I think it's Binks. The guy, you know, I'm not going to give away the movie, but when Binks is back in like the colonial times, that village scene mixed with like the climate of Winterfell and the atmosphere of Westeros from Game of Thrones. Like that's what I'm picturing. And then the Raven world, I'm picturing much more like Stone Castle, Transylvania, Gothic type of vibe. So the world building is so cool. And then one of the things that I said when I read Kiss of the Basilisk was, it's amazing how this was definitely an erotic novel, but did not lose the storyline. Like there was an actual plot outside of the spice. And that is how I'm feeling about Feather So Vicious as well. The plot point and the war and the politics and the betrayal between the characters and the interaction between the characters, it has not been lost in the erotic scenes, if that's making sense. Like the plot line is so immersive and the world is so immersive and the characters are so well developed. Like if you can get past the brutality, the darkness, and a lot of like the what some people would consider triggering things and appreciate this book for what it is, it really is something that could potentially be very special. But if you are not a dark romance or dark romantasy reader, do not jump straight into this because it's intense even for me, and I've read a lot of this stuff. So I have sat and made it 65% of the way through this book today, and I'm still not done yet. I'm probably not going to turn the camera back on because it is what it is, but I am going to grab my ice cream. Let me go grab it because we're going to talk about that as well. So if you don't know me personally, I don't think you would probably guess this because I will drop like any amount of money on a book. I will drop any amount of money on a vacation. Like I am very bougie when it comes to that stuff. But with other things in life, like what I would consider luxuries just for myself that like my family aren't really getting anything from or benefiting from, my husband kind of makes fun of me because I can get kind of cheap. And one thing you will learn about me is that I absolutely love ice cream. However, my favorite ice cream is the Haagen-Dazs honey salted caramel almond ice cream. Honey ice cream in general will always get me, but specifically Haagen-Dazs honey salted caramel almond. This is the greatest ice cream that has ever been made, but In my area, this pint is $7 regularly priced. I'm not paying $7 for this. That to me is just insane to another level. I will not pay $7 for this. However, when it goes on sale, I will purchase it. And today when my son and I were at the store picking up stuff for dinner, this was on sale 3 for $7. That's like the best sale I've seen at Haagen-Dazs for a while. So I got a couple of flavors. I got the brown butter salted cookie dough, the honey salted caramel almond, and then I think I got their cookies and cream. I'm pretty sure was the last one I got. And I'm going to sit here and eat some of this and read my book and luxuriate because I don't often treat myself to this. So I will see you in the morning. It is the next morning and I'm going to keep my voice down because my boys are still asleep upstairs. Now I'm downstairs in the guest room, so the chances of them hearing me, not great, but the point is they stayed up later than I did last night and I want them to get their sleep. You know what I'm saying? So after I spoke to you last night, I said that I was going to bed. However, I cannot be stopped. So I went upstairs and I got into bed and I brought my Kindle with me and I finished Feathers So Vicious, which means I read this 414-page book in like one day, which is crazy. That's crazy. But I'm giving this a 4.5 stars. Everything I said about it before I went to bed last night still stands. It only got darker. It only got more intense. So this book is definitely not going to be for everyone. If you want to know a little bit more specifically about what I'm talking about, like I said, my Instagram is always linked down below. You can message me and I could give you like a little bit more of an in-depth reason why, but I'm not going to talk about it here on YouTube because YouTube gets a little funny about some stuff. So 4.5 stars, so good. Do not pick this up if this is your first like dark fantasy, dark romantasy. Don't do it. It will be a shock to the system. Let's put it that way. However, I loved it. It was very good. Another thing I forgot to talk to you guys about is that over the last few days, if I wasn't reading Feathers So Vicious or the other book I was reading, I picked up the Idaho 4 as my audiobook. So this has been a case that has fascinated me since the moment it happened. If you don't know what this is about, there were 4 college students unalived in Idaho over the night in their off-campus housing in a brutal fashion. And Brian Koberger was a PhD criminal justice student at the University of Washington at Pullman, and he was arrested and subsequently confessed and was convicted to unaliving all 4 of the students, and they've come to be known as the Idaho 4. So James Patterson, and I forget the woman who did it with him, another investigative journalist, wrote a book about it. And I have been, like I said, like locked in and obsessed with this case since it first happened. I don't know, I mean, I do know why. It was horrible and it was tragic, but this was just something that really captured me, and I was really involved with it. Over the 2 years that it's been on the news, I've just been really fascinated by this case, and I didn't think that this was going to give me like a ton of insight or information that I didn't already know, and it did, particularly in a lot of background stuff in Brian's life. Like I knew a lot about what happened with the actual unaliving, and I knew a lot about the victims, but what I didn't know was a lot of the really creepy things that had happened in the unaliver's life before this, and none of it makes sense. It's all horrible, but it's another one of those cases where you're like, someone should have known that something was up with this guy. Like, and I think people did. I think they thought that he was very odd and very strange. I'm sure none of them thought he would actually hurt someone, but the point is he displayed like all of the stereotypical check marks for deviant behavior all throughout his life, and that's something that I think I didn't know and that the news hasn't really delved into. Like, there were benchmarks reached, if you get what I'm saying, in the path to deviant behavior. He checked all the boxes. So if somebody had seen him, and I find it hard to believe that someone in his life who wasn't a mandated reporter, who that didn't have like this knowledge that interacted with him, wouldn't have realized that he was slowly checking every benchmark, but they didn't. And as usual, not enough was done to intervene. I listened to this on audio. James Patterson was the narrator for it. I'm not going to give it a rating because it's a nonfiction book that I just wouldn't rate. But it was very good. And I think it would be even better if you didn't know as much about the case going into it as I did. But surprisingly, I did get some new information from this. So that's pretty cool. So I guess then we should figure out what we're reading today. I do have some things to do today. What do I not want? Okay, honestly, there's nothing really that I don't want. Maybe the arc, because I don't know. We'll see. Let's do our spin. What's it gonna be? Oh my gosh, that was like right on the line. New to me author. So if you're unaware what this is an author that is new to me. Not necessarily a debut author. I mean, a debut author would be new to me, but not necessarily that, but just an author that I haven't read from. So I can't for the life of me remember if I have a new author on my TBR. Let me go look, and if not, we'll be picking through my shelves in my Kindle. As it turns out, I'm an idiot because here's my August TBR. There is literally not one single book on this list that isn't a new author to me. And I'm sitting here being like, I can't think if there is one. Literally every single one, new author. So I'm stupid. Okay, so let's talk through this a little bit. Silent Patient I'm doing as a buddy read with my aunts, so I might have to hold off on that until they're ready. The Exorcism of Fairies is a dark academia fairy book. Long Live Evil is a fantasy where the main female character is the villain. Hunt on Dark Waters is a fae, I think, pirate book. The Unmaking of June Farrow, I have been putting that book off forever. Dungeons and Drama, YA romance. Bourbon and Lies is more like of a, not dark romance, but like, and I don't think it's necessarily mafia, but like grumpy romance. Demon World Boba Shop, cozy fantasy. One Last Shot, summer romance. And Beartown is our homey and homely book club pick, so I don't necessarily want to read it in one shot because I want to read it with the club through the chapters. So I think on this list, the ones that are catching my attention right now are The Unmaking of June Farrow, Bourbon and Lies, and One Last Shot. Okay, so One Last Shot, like I said, I want to get read before the summer is over because if I don't think I'm going to be picking this up, so I'm going to be pushing it off till next summer. But The Unmaking of June Farrow and Bourbon and Lies are much more interesting to me right now. I just got done with a fantasy. Okay, I think I'm going to pick up Bourbon and Lies on my Kindle. It's just intriguing me more. So that's going to be the one I pick up today. I will come back here and give you an update when I'm like 100 pages in theory, if I don't get sucked in and do what I did yesterday and read the entire book.
Headlights on the highway. If you only knew, being back here always makes me think of you. When the world is sleeping, do you think of me? With the road it's coming back again, coming back to me. I remember the long drives, the late nights in your car. I remember it all. Windows down, empty streets, you were all I used to know.
Where to start? Okay, so admittedly, it is a few days later. I think we're like 3 or 4 days later. I haven't filmed a thing for 3 or 4 days. And I am now page 331, 76% of the way through Bourbon and Lies. And I don't really know, like I haven't updated in the last couple of days because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know what to say about this book, 76% of the way through it. And I'm trying to figure out why this is just not really like clicking for me. And and I'm not saying I don't like it because I don't dislike it. It's just very blah to me. It's just very nothing sauce. Like it's nothing sauce. Nothing is happening. I don't care. I don't care about the characters. their relationship and their chemistry is fine, I guess. I don't know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So like I said, 76% of the way through, I have not updated at all. Let me give you like a very, very brief, non-spoilery synopsis. So basically, our main female character, Lainey, was put in witness protection. 76% of the way through the book, I still have no idea why. Couldn't tell you. No clue. That's yet again one of the things that kind of hasn't happened. There's been no reveals. I have no idea. And I know they're going to do the thing in the book where like in the last couple of pages, there's going to be some big dramatic reveal. But the point is they're not putting in enough work for me to care about the character so that I want to know. Like at this point, I know we're going to get the reveal in the last few pages and I'm just going to be like, cool. And then I'm going to move on with my life because I don't really care about her. Like I don't feel like the character development has been enough for me to be invested in Lainey enough to have the big reveal be like shocking and life-altering. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Lainey was put in witness protection for reasons unknown. We have no clue. And I guess part of this Mickey Mouse witness protection program is that the agent just kind of like drops her at her friend's house. Like, okay, granted, the friend lives on like a ranch in the middle of nowhere in Fiasco, Kentucky, right? So like, I guess she's hiding her, but I'm pretty sure this isn't the way it works. But she just gets dropped in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. And what do you know? The three guys that live there happen to all be hot cowboys. Hot single cowboys, kind of. And they also own a bourbon distillery. So what do you know? They're also billionaires, right? Like, it's fine. The writing's not horrible. It's completely brainless. You do not need to think for 1 millisecond about this book. The problem is that it's been done before. It's not very original. I think the most original thing about this book is the witness protection thing, but it's done kind of in a sloppy way, at least at this point, in my opinion. And 76% of the way through, we should have had some of this like tied up. Like I feel like 76% of the way through, 331 pages through, I should care a little bit more than I do. Right now, I'm just flying through the last 25% of the book to get to the end, basically. And now, the end is where the most action happens. So maybe there will be reveals and something will happen or the characters will keep charactering and I'll care. But at this point, I kind of don't. Now, that's not me saying don't read this book. It's fine, but that's what it is. It's fine. Like right now, it's sitting at like a 2.753, to be honest with you. 3 might be a bit generous, maybe a 2.75. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not saying don't read it, but if you're looking for a book that has no plot holes, very tied up, like you're going to get super emotionally invested in these characters. There's going to be found family where the friend group is going to be like something that you're going to think about forever. To me, this is not accomplishing that. But I feel like I'm being harsh, but I don't hate it. I just kind of am ready to move on. Have you ever read a book like that there's nothing intrinsically wrong with it? There's nothing like that you hate about it. It's not making you angry or hostile, but like, I've now been reading this book for 3 days and that's about 3 days too long. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm ready to move on to something I'm going to care about more. It's giving very like 2 to 3 star energy and I'm kind of ready to go find my next favorite book. You know, I feel like I'm like wasting time at this point reading this. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and just bang out the last 25 pages of this book. And then we're going to come back and spin for the next book. I'm holding out hope that maybe the end will sell me and this will end up being, I can't see it being any, like even if we have like a mind-blowing end, I can't see it being any higher than a 4-star, to be honest with you. And that would take like a lot of work to get there. So never say never. I will be back when I'm done with this. It is officially the next morning. And as per usual, I am going to keep my voice down because everybody else in my house is sleeping. Well, my oldest son is up. He has early morning soccer practice, so I just woke him up, but the rest of my house is sleeping, so I don't want to talk too loudly. But last night I did finish Bourbon and Lies. I am giving this a 3-star overall. The ending didn't really get any better for me. I maybe got a little bit more intrigued and I was maybe a little bit more interested just for the sheer fact that we were actually getting some action, because the other 75-85% of the book was just a whole lot of nothing. It was just a whole bunch of innuendo and lead up to a modicum of action at the end. But I actually thought that a lot of it was kind of silly, and the way that the big bad happens was just kind of ridiculous. And it wasn't that it was unsatisfying. Like, the book was entertaining, but the focal storyline wasn't that original, and the detailed elements that she put into the story to make it original weren't really played upon and didn't really make sense. The entire way that she did the witness protection made absolutely no sense at all. And then the end was just kind of, it just kind of fell flat, if I guess is what I'm saying. So 3 stars, not horrible, but not great either. Will I continue on with the series? I don't think the book was offensive enough for me to actively be like, don't ever show me another book in the series, I don't want to read it. I think if it happened to come up, I probably would, but is this a book that I'm going to be like chomping at the bit to get book number 2 on my next TBR? No, probably not. But I mean, yeah, okay. If it came up and continue a series, I wouldn't be that upset. But on that note, I think I may sit at my son's practice a little bit today, and I also have reading sprints today, so I do want to spin our wheel and figure out what we're reading next. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm kind of feeling romantasy today. A 5-star prediction. Oh my god. Oh my god, this is perfect. Okay, but wait, I have like 4,000 5-star predictions. Okay, let me grab some options. First of all, let's check my August TBR, which I'm doing atrociously horrible on, so let's all laugh at how bad I'm doing. Here it is. The only one on this list that I would consider like a 5-star prediction is Beartown, and I'm currently like 30-something% of the way through because I'm reading it with the Homey and Homely book club, so I think that would be cheating. The rest of these I think I may like, but I'm not like anticipating them to be full 5 stars. Like, if any of these were full 5 stars, that would kind of shock me. So that sent me on a hunt to my shelves, and I think I came up with 3 separate options, so let's talk about them. The first thing I grabbed that I think could be 5 stars is Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. I want to read this book so badly, and I kind of know as little as possible about it, but I know this is like dark, gothic, fantasy. I think it has to do with like falling in love with death, but I'm honestly could be making that up. Next up, I grabbed Quicksilver. This is one chunky book, and it's so funny because I've seen so many people give it like 1 star and so many people give it 5 stars, but the funniest part about that is the people who give it a 1-star review, when I read the review, it's like all of the micro tropes that I like, and then I read the 5-star reviews and I'm like, wait, why does this sound amazing? So I think I'm leaning more towards this might be a 5-star for me. However, am I looking to get into a 700-800 page book at this exact moment? It's 600 pages. Sorry, my bad. And then the last book I grabbed is Enigma by Runix. Gothicana was the first book before Enigma, and that was 5 stars. And more importantly, it kind of put me down the Runix rabbit hole, and I absolutely love their writing. It's so good, and there's something about it that I just fly through. This is dark academia, spicy romantasy, and Gothicana was incredible. On top of that, Enigma is on my 25 and 25 list, so this is the one I'm gonna go with. I'm going to read Enigma by Runix as my 5-star prediction. It is so late. It's actually like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I wanted to take my last remaining energy for the night and update you guys on a couple of things, because I am now 50% of the way through Enigma by Runix. I'm on page 215-ish, somewhere in that arena. I really can't say anything other than I love Runix's writing. I don't even know anything about Runix as an author. I think they're kind of anonymous on purpose. Like, I don't know that a ton is known. I mean, I haven't done a ton of research, so I could be totally off base, but I think they are kind of anonymous as an author, and I am so addicted to their writing. It is so good. I loved Gothicana. It was 5 stars. Enigma might be another 5-star. But it's so funny because it is quite different from Gothicana, like a lot of central theming, right? So it's another dark academia, dark university setting like Gothicana, but the way that the story is told and the interactions between the characters right off the bat are so different. I definitely see some similarities just in the way that Runix writes and develops characters and character interaction, but they've done such a good job at differentiating the relationships between the characters that might be so confusing. I'm trying not to give away too much because obviously I want this to be spoiler free and I don't want to like project my feelings onto you too much, but Enigma is a dark academia. We are following our main female character, Salem Salazar, who has had a lot of loss and hardship in her life. And she took a few years off between some of those traumatic events to recover. And now at age 20, she is attending a very elite university called Mortimer University. At this university, she meets several students, several teachers, and one particular TA named Kaz. Now, I'm not going to get too far into some of the loss that she has experienced and the other students that have experienced, but Mortimer University has quite a macabre past. And Salem, based on some of the things that happened in her past, may have some ulterior motives as to why she's at Mortimer University outside of just learning her studies. 50% of the way in, the characters are amazing. The story is amazing. The tension is amazing, but most importantly, and I think the strongest aspect of Runix's writing is the world building. I have read quite a bit of Gothic romantasy, and nobody builds a Gothic, dark, eerie, foggy setting quite like Runix. Both the world in Gothicana and Enigma are just so visceral. I can picture them in my mind, and when I am reading the story, I feel like I'm there. I can't quite describe it, but I get this, like I picture the landscape in my head. I picture the buildings in my head. I can see the scenes playing like movies, and I get this kind of like eerie Gothic feeling while I'm writing it. And it's never quite happened to me the way it has happened in Runix's writing. I am loving this. It is so good. Now, the reason why I'm coming and talking to you at 3 o'clock in the morning is because we are taking a little bit of a spontaneous trip, we being my boys, my aunt, and myself, down to visit my other aunt and my uncle in Maryland. We just kind of decided spontaneously, it's the end of the summer, we don't have too much time left to the boys' summer breaks, that we're just going to go down for 3 or 4 days and visit. They have a really cool piece of property down in Maryland and we love to go and visit. So I am going to be reading because both of these are the aunties that I have kind of pulled into my reading obsession, so I'm sure we're going to read a little bit together, but I don't know how much time I'm necessarily going to be speaking directly to the camera. I film on this big camera with this big microphone, and I'm not lugging the whole thing down to Maryland on a 7-hour drive with me, so any footage you do get will be like iPhone B-roll and maybe talking to my iPhone a little bit, but who knows whether I'm going to be doing that or not. So I will come back to update you either while I'm in Maryland or when I get back, but I'm definitely going to be finishing Enigma in the next few days, and we'll figure out if we're going to do another spin after that. Officially back from my little long weekend in Maryland with my aunties and my kids. It reset my soul. It was a great trip. And I'm going to be honest with you, it was just quality time with each other. It wasn't like we had any major plans. Like, we got dinner with my aunt's coworker and her husband. We went to this amazing little Amish, not little, it was huge, this huge Amish market, and got baked goods. And then we snacked on them all weekend. We read together so much. And actually, since I've gotten home, I texted both of my aunts and I was just like, I really miss reading with you guys. We would sit at night and in the morning and not even speak. We would just sit at the same table and read our books. And there was something so bonding and cozy and nice about that, to just be sitting and reading together, 3 totally different books in totally different genres. And it was just so nice. And we already are planning a couple of trips that we want to take, and they may or may not be book centered. So hopefully we can make that happen in the next couple of months, because I think it would be so much fun. But I just had a really great weekend. And because I spent most of the weekend focusing on my family, I didn't grab, like, I honestly feel like at night I would lay down after we were done reading and I'd be like, I didn't film anything today. Like, you would think about it afterwards, because I was so in the moment and so present, just hanging out and running around and going to Annapolis and going to different places with my family. So it was just a really nice weekend of quality time. And I hung out with my uncle and I hung out with their chickens and I just hung out at their house, and it was just so nice. And it wasn't action packed. It was just fun and cozy, and browsing through bookstores and book shopping together, and browsing through the Amish market and getting snacks and cooking dinner. And it was just a really nice weekend. But long story short, I did finish Enigma while I was there. We all actually finished a book together while we were there. My Aunt Martha finished Beartown, which I am also like 70% of the way through. I'm going to be finishing this today with the book club. My Aunt Karkar finished The Silent Patient, I believe is what she was reading. And I finished Enigma. So we all did finish a book together. And this particular edition Cheyenne sent me, which, thank you, Cheyenne, the best as always. This edition is so gorgeous. I talked a little bit about it, but really, it really did enhance the reading experience when you would get to the start of every chapter and there would be another quote from a famous piece of literature throughout history and like a gorgeous piece of artwork. I don't know what it was, but it made me push through to the chapters when I was sometimes losing motivation or getting tired, because I wanted to see the next quotation and the next artwork. I did give this 4 stars. Now, Gothicana by Runix, the first book I read, was a 5-star, easy 5-star book. Easy. I was engaged through the entire book. I loved the storyline. I loved the spice. I loved the world. And I will say, in Enigma, the love for the world that Runix built was the same. I love the way Runix builds her dark academia settings. It is really, bar none, it is really good. However, in this book, I felt that the storyline was just a bit more like meandering and a bit slower, and I felt the pacing was off in this. There was never a chapter in Gothicana where I lost focus or questioned where it was going to tie into the plot. You just kind of knew that that information was going to be essential. I cannot say the same for Enigma. As I was reading it, it wasn't that I wasn't enjoying myself, but I would my mind would wander and then it wouldn't really matter because I wouldn't really need to know it for the central plot of the story. So it was good. I liked it. I think the secret society cult vibes in this were really cool. However, if you were on the fence about what Runix Dark Academia book to read, I would definitely tell you Gothicana is superior. And that is it, guys. I'm going to officially end our readathon here. And here I am wondering if I got even enough readathon to make this a coherent video, but I guess we will find out in editing. If you have made it this whole way, comment the castle emoji for Mortimer University, this amazing Gothic castle. I mean, it really is quite beautiful. So comment the castle emoji to show me that you've made it this entire way, and then do all the things that you are so professional at doing. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.